Hello, ladies and gentlemen. It's Wednesday, December 8th, 2010. This is Day 9 Daily number 224, where we learn to be a better gamer, but we're doing Newbie Tuesday today because due to connectivity issues, I couldn't actually do a show yesterday. I was there, I was pushing all the correct buttons, but I pushed the button and it didn't work. So I didn't know what to do. So I've been on the phone with tech support for about 2.5 hours today, so things should be going okay-ish. There's a technician coming to my house on Friday morning. Ooh, very official. There's a technician. Sure, he will have all sorts of fantastic knowledge to bestow upon me then, but until that moment in time, I will bestow knowledge upon you now. Now, this is Newbie Tuesday, where we focus on, I guess I would call them, newer concepts? I don't know, because the thing is that like a lot of the stuff on Newbie Tuesday I think is applicable to wide ranges of people, but in particular, there's the people who come right fresh off a single player, or maybe people who dabble in the 2v2 team games or something like that, or even the unbelievably kick-ass 4v4, and then they dip their toes into the 1v1 waters and things feel cold and frigid, and once they get used to the cold they step in and there's piranhas and polar bears. That's underwater polar bears just clawing at them, and they say, I want to get out. Excuse me, I drooled. I want to get out of this cold, chilly polar bear water into the hot tub sauna of the team games again, where I can just chill. But we're going to focus instead on a very important set of concepts today. Well, actually, in all Newbie Tuesdays we do important things, but today it is the idea of dealing with someone very, very, very fast expanding. I chose, in this one, I requested people to submit replays of you being Terran and the enemy being Protoss, and the Protoss early expands, and the Terran player has a lot of problems dealing with it. It seems pretty specific, and I did choose it so that way we could look at some specific examples of just that one matchup, but in a general sense, the whole point of this daily was to just be, let's look at early expanding, and think about it, right? How do you deal with early expanding? Now, I'm going to pose a question to you right now. My original goal was just to think about, hey, I'm having trouble with people who fast expand. Let's answer that question. Because again, if you're a newer player to 1v1, that's kind of a hard thing to deal with. Why would I have chosen people to submit Terran vs. Protoss games? In particular, why did I ask all the people who submitted to be Terran players submitting the Terran vs. Protoss game? Why didn't I just choose one matchup? Alright, think about it. Think. While I get water. Oh, that was planned. That was a ploy by me. Oh. Alright, good. Did you think of it? Good. I gave you just the right amount of time to lock the door because I don't want anyone coming in here because they might be friendly to me, but they're certainly not my friends. Alright, I'm back. Ugh. The reason I chose one super ultra specific closed down miniature range of possibilities is because it's so important to scope down, right? It's way too easy to, for instance, watch some match from GSL of like some, OGSMC versus July and go, oh, Void Ray is so cool, and to try to even absorb all those strategies while you're watching the next set of matches, which is like a ZVT, and there's cool stuff going on there. Your brain just has too much going on. So we're going to crunch it down to one little small set. So first, I just want to do the basic intro to what is happening. Here's Fearsome. I didn't actually realize that Fearsome was, pronounced like that because I'd only, watched these replays. And interestingly enough, I don't actually narrate while I'm reviewing replays for the future dailies. But here's Fearsome. He is the submitter of this game against Arth. In the left corner is Protoss. We're going to be seeing Arth do, as I speed this game up, here is the basic look, right? A real fast expand. Here's the pylon going down. There's a gateway on 13. We see an assimilator coming down. We see some chrono boosting, another pylon. Cybernetics core. Everyone does something along this. You know what? Let's even ignore the numbers. Gateway, gas, core. It's all the detail I care about. Gateway, gas, core, some units. And then coming up here, we see an expand coming around 32-ish food. All right, nifty, right? This is the basic look. Notice there's a few characteristic things. No second gas, no other noteworthy tech structures really anywhere. Really, it's just expand and have a couple of units in order to keep us alive. That is exactly what I was looking for. So we're going to go ahead and slow the game back down. Let me make sure it's at the good speed. Perfect. Now I'm going to pause here. Now we're going to briefly poke over at Fearsome. It looks like he's throwing down a bunker because he's teching up to a starport. We can see a tech lab here. Okay, cool. So let's talk a little bit of theory about the early expand, right? I'm going to say something to you, and you will say, yes, righto, of course, but it won't register. Why do you do that to me? Here's the thing. If you expand... Actually, what I'm about to say might even be surprising to you. Ooh. When you expand, the moment that you have expanded, you're at a huge net loss. It is a loss to expand in the immediate time frame, right? Most obviously, if I build a command center in my main to lift it up and float it to the expansion, what if it finishes and I can't expand because there's like a whole bunch of units outside my base? That's 400 minerals on that command center that I can't do anything with. It didn't go into barracks, it didn't go into units, it didn't go into depots, went into nothing. It literally was a 400 mineral paperweight chilling in your base. And when it finally lands and you begin to gather some resources from it, then you slowly make back that investment, and then you actually start getting some good juice out of it. Perfecto, right? Might be a little counterintuitive. A lot of times people think that, oh, hey, if I can expand. They say things like, ooh, it's not really safe to expand. But I want everyone to understand the idea that if you throw down an expansion, that's $400 gone in the immediate time frame. Cool. We got that done with. And then, of course, it picks right back up. So, in general, I want to point out two broad areas of how to deal with an expansion. Two broad areas. On the right-hand side, what did I just get done saying? I just got done saying that when you early expand, the instant that nexus goes down, or that command center, or that hatch goes down, you are at a loss. You are vulnerable. So, one way to deal with it is to just pound them right into the ground right when the expansion happens, right? Or, it is to not at all deal with the expansion in a direct sense. It would be for you to do something like expand yourself. To tech completely freely. In other words, to go way past, or to deal with it in sort of a future sense, a way down the road sense. So it's like two arms, right? There's like the attack, go just break his face right at the start. And then there's the, I'll expand too. I'll get some map control. I'll get some sort of fancy tech I didn't want up. Two huge differences, right? Two very, very, very big things that are and really opposing. The problem is that people try to deal with expansions in the middle. That's the problem, is people sort of go for some sort of betweenish build. They don't do an extreme on either end. They go for something in between where they go, okay, well, I was originally going to go Marine Marauder, and I was going to try to be a little bit aggressive. He's expanding. Well, I guess I'll try to expand too. But I guess I do have some Marines and Marauders. Let me try to attack them. And it just, there's kind of in-betweenish zone. So I wanted to bring all that up before we watched any games at all. Before we watched any games. Now, this first game that we're going to see is a typical example of some funkiness that can occur, right? Some just general understanding of what it feels like to play against an early expander. Because you heard me say, just a second ago, you heard me say you should probably be dealing with an expansion in one of two extreme ways. One of which is to do some sort of early crazy attack right at the front door. The other is to do some sort of fancy tech or some sort of expanding yourself. Now, I just want to state for the record, this sort of thing we don't care about. This sort of thing is not Not particularly interesting to us. Not particularly interesting. The fact that, Protoss could pull it off is a little bit of a bonus, but we are actually going to ignore this. We're actually going to ignore this. And just go back to Arth's base. It looks like he has, he's making some gateways. He's clearly, has his attention focused on the base, or else, he'd be back here building probes and pylons, the important things to build. Part of the reason why I tend to ignore this is that this is actually a pretty significant loss for the Protoss at this early phase in the game. Having done oodles and oodles and oodles of early expanding, even before other people early expanded, it really sucks to lose those first 4 units, like a lot. Because notice that in the unit counting station, there's 0 of anything except for probes. Hey, welcome. You are the Admiral, Captain, and Foot Soldier. You're in fact the entire army, Mr. Stalker. So, of course, we're going to see some of these gateways go down. Again, notice it's about even, right? About even. At this point in time, what has this Nexus done? It has been a net loss. So far, this has only put a gigantic dent in the Protoss economy, because look at these mineral fields. Nothing has been mined, even from this one in a moment. All right, he has now earned $5. Fantastic, right? Already clawing his way back up. Cool. Now, there's a couple of things I want to note right now. Protoss should have built these gateways a little earlier. But that's fine. We're not looking for perfection here. We're not looking for ultra diamond, tip-top S-class level play. We just kind of want approximations. This is going to be pretty hard to break in about a minute. Again, pretend that those 4 units that participated in that early attack were alive. You'd have about 8 units out right now. That's great. That's fantastic. Cool. All right, cool. Now, immediately note the following. This is an expansion that is up. This is an expansion that is not up. It is 2 base versus 1 base, right? 2 base versus 1 base. All right, I just want you to note that. I just want to let that sink in a little bit. It's been 2 base against 1 base for a little while now. Probably about 2-3 minutes. Okay. Now, I want to pause, and I want to relate this back to something that might seem like the complete opposite, but actually is kind of the same thing. And allow me to even lower my chair. Ha! Shazam. So, I'm going to relate this back to cheesing, right? In particular, let's pick every Zerg's favorite little opening to deal with. The double Marine plus Bunker Rush, right? The double racks of Bunker Rush. Oh, that's so fun to face. And all that good business. Now, for any of you who watch my casts regularly, you'll probably hear me say this pretty often. For any of you newcomers, it's so important you understand this. When you're getting cheesed, right when you get done holding off some crazy cheese strategy, your mind is still kind of going, holy shit, I almost lost right there. And you kind of have this sinking feeling of, I think I'm losing. No, because keep in mind that the cheesing player, all those Marines and bunkers and SCVs he brought are a significant investment, a huge investment, to the point where if you hold it off, even losing 6 or 7 drones, you're still probably ahead, right? You're still probably ahead. If he lost 8 Marines and 2 bunkers and 2 SCVs, if you actually start putting those numbers into minerals, oh my god, you get a huge amount. Losing 6, 7, 8 drones, it's fine. It's not a big deal. You hear me say that a lot. Right when you hold off cheese, you should go, great. I'm in good position to win this game. Even if you only have 5 or 6 drones remaining at the end of that. You hear me say that a lot. It is almost the exact same thing with an early expand type player. A lot of times you're going to be doing a lot of damage. You're going to be doing a lot of damage, a lot of poking and prodding in obnoxious ways to the Protoss player. And what it'll feel like, oh, I'm winning. I'm crushing him. You'll drop the Hellions in the back of his base and kill off a ton of workers. You'll get a Cloaked Banshee in there. You'll get Reapers in there. Let's just pick another race, right? You'll get the Void Ray, you'll kill off a bunch of depots, the Mutalisk will crush a bunch of workers, and you'll be going, yes, I have successfully, really severely wounded this early expanding player, and now I'm winning. No, right? Don't do that, right? In the same sense that right when you get cheesed and you hold it off, that feeling of, oh my god, I'm losing, that's wrong. In the exact same way, if you do some damage to a player who's out expanding you, you might feel, oh, I'm doing pretty good and I'm winning. You have likely equalized the playing field. You have likely equalized the playing field. So I'm going to relate that back to this game where we see a Banshee, 2 Banshees coming up with Cloak, right? I want to note right now, I'm going to start repeating the same thing again and again and again. No expansion up for Terran yet. No expansion up for Terran. I do not care how good you think Mules are. There's no expansion up for Terran. There's been an expansion up for Protoss. Resource-wise, oh, we can see Protoss still pulling a little ahead. Okay, cool. I'm going to go back to this production tab. Still no expansion for Terran. So, uh-oh, here comes some serious damage, right? Some serious damage, theoretically. There's 1 probe down. There's another probe down. There's, wow, looks like we have about 4 probes down right now. Okay, he's going to try to maneuver back around this way. And this is a point in time when a Terran player really starts drooling, right? He really starts drooling. He's going, oh my gosh, I've killed so many probes off. Oh no, does Arth even have an observer? Oh no, he's losing so many dudes. Holy frickin' cow. Alright, oh jeez, he's losing a lot of probes. A lot of probes. And, okay, so let's count here. So that's 11 plus 8, which you'll notice oftentimes 19. And it looks like, no, darn, didn't quite get that last remaining Banshee. It manages to get off another shot. And it gets sentry'd. Okay, cool. Now, how many of you Terran players in your head go, Herter won the game, and then if you mysteriously lose later on, you go, oh, I hate Protoss. You either complain that your Terran race is too weak, or you think that there's some huge blunder that you did, or maybe you decided to do another build, or maybe you say Zomga, early expanding Protoss, impossible to deal with, that sort of jazz. But I want you to just note a couple of things. No expansion from Terran. No expansion. Yes, those Banshees paid for their weight in gold, right? They did way more damage than they were worth. However, Protoss has mined way more money than you have as the Terran player. He has mined a lot more because he's had this expansion up for so long. So in a sense, that little Banshee harassment probably evened the scores out. Honestly, in this game, he did probably get somewhat of an advantage, but not a huge one. Look at all the resources, just comparisoned. Alright, both players have a good bit of money, but look at how close those food counts are. That's a pretty good measure of equality in a game, and yeah, that's pretty close. In particular, let's go to the unit counting station. Look at this army right now. For Fearsome, 7 Marauders, 1 Marine. Versus 5 Zealots, 8 Stalkers, and a Sentry? Yeah, there is no way that Arth is under any pressure of losing. In fact, if he attacked, there might even be a little bit of trouble for Fearsome if he didn't have this high ground ramp and this bunker. Really, really important thing to highlight, right? Because as we're going to see in the unit counting station, you know, Arth not really that far behind. This command center is actually feeling a little uncomfortable about moving out. It's probably pretty smart. He waited for the orbital command because, man, look how many units Arth has. Wow. A lot of units. And now we see all the extra structures getting thrown out. Good macro by Arth. Should probably be pooping out a few more probes. Expansion just got done. Now, I generally am trying to focus on the Terran side in this game, right? Ignoring, you know, a little bit of macro issues, ignoring the build order choice, as a general trend, that damage that the Banshees did a lot more of evening than it did of swinging a huge advantage. Now, for the record, from the Protoss point of view, if you are in Arth's position, do not panic that you lost all those probes. Have a little bit more comfort. The game's probably going to be closer than you think. Here's Arth gearing up to do a little bit of a push. Very smart, right? Could do a little more organization. Could probably have those Zealots participating in the front. Throwing down some haphazardly placed force fields. Could hug the left and then continue advancing in a very sort of Noni-esque fashion. But really, yeah, this game ends up looking quite even. Now, this is not the highest level of play, right? We see, you know, not maximum guys in our geysers. We see lack of saturation. We see unevenness of workers between the two bases. We see funkily placed buildings. I actually am going to list out all these issues, right? We see, a few gateways just sort of chilling. We see a fast forge only for cannons, not enough probes, too much chrono boost. We see a good amount of mistakes on both sides, and honestly, in my eyes, these players are pretty even in terms of skill level. And what's nice about all the stuff I'm saying regarding, being up against an early expanding player, it'll look equivalent at all levels, right? Everything I'm saying is still absolutely true. If you're playing at tip-top diamond levels and the Banshees get in there and snipe off like 8 probes or something like that, but you kill off the Banshees, you're probably in pretty comfortable shape as an early expanding Protoss player. In fact, I'd even feel ahead if I managed to kill off 2 Banshees at that point. I'd feel really, 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 really confident. Because there's no more harassment, I've already mined so much more money, and he probably hasn't even begun to begin mining from his expansion. Very, very important thing to note. I want you to notice still that these foods are pretty darn even. It looks like Terran is slowly pulling ahead, but we see a lot of extra stuff invested into these special little tech structures. So, I'm not probably going to end up finishing this game. I think it's actually maybe 5 more minutes long. Yeah, we'll actually speed through it. I'm not too concerned with the game at this point because you know what? This is a pretty even game at this point. If you, and by that, this is what I really mean by it's an even game at this point. It is even, ignoring history. If for some reason your buddy was watching this replay on his computer and you walked in and looked at this point in the game, you would never really say, oh yeah, Protoss early expanded and then Terran did some Banshee harass. You could just look at this state and you could go, that's pretty close, that's pretty close. That's one of the most important ideas. Oh, gosh. Wow. Whoa is what I'm about to say important. Oh, my gosh. Allow me to drink this water so my throat sounds crystal clear to deliver this truth upon you. It's actually very good water today. Put it through a filter. Oh, it's good. All right, here we go. Now this happens to me from time to time. I get really excited about something I'm going to say, and it makes a lot of sense, then I completely forget about it because I wanted to let everyone know that I used a filter on my water. What kind of idiot am I? Oh, no, I remember. Okay. This is so important that you can look at a slice of time in a game of StarCraft 2 and judge clearly who is at an advantage or who is at a disadvantage based upon just that slice of time, right? And when I say slice of time, I mean if you pause a game like this, you can say this is a good amount of probes, this is a little lacking on probes, this is, okay, good, he's getting armor first, okay, he has these, looking around at this slice in time. Because you know what people don't do, all right, is look at it as a slice of time. They'll say, yeah, Terran has the advantage now because 8 minutes ago, Banshees did damage. No! Holy crap, does that not matter? It does not matter at all what happened in the past. Because I'm asking about how do things look right now? And that, honestly, is one of the biggest steps that someone can take in their education process in RTS games, or actually in any strategy games, is that the past don't matter. It's a state function. Where am I right now? Okay, where do I need to go? Cool. It's tragic, really, these sort of people who just say, I lost, but my Banshees did so much damage. It's like, okay, but then you needed to go like 3 minutes after the Banshee, stop, and then say, what does my decision-making have to be now? Because too often, Terran will be saying things in his head as a player, like, oh yeah, well, I did damage with Banshees, so I'm doing good, yeah, oh yeah, did the damage with the Banshees, did the hurt with the Banshees. Now, that whole slice of time thing, we're going to come back to in the second game. So don't you forget about it. By the way, feedback is awesome, even when it's on like a 0 health. Or excuse me, a 0 mana medevac. It's so fun. It is so fun. So Arth is moving around. He's taking an expansion. He's creating a very fun little formation here. I'm just going to try to speed things up just a little bit more. Part of the reason why I mentioned this slice of time idea is that about 7-8 minutes ago, it didn't matter that Protoss early expanded, and it didn't matter that Terran did damage with Banshees, or that Terran even opened Banshees. What matters now is how to transition, and what to do next. We see Protoss seeming to have a very good sense of his plans. He's moving out in the middle of the map, he's expanding a lot. Terran seems a little bit more cramped mentally. Here come the ghosts, blast, 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 but of course there's Infinity Templar, casting Infinity Storms, which are followed up by 4 Archons, because you'll note Infinity divided by 2 is 4, so then he charges, charge, dun, da, 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 bum, ba, da, da, da. Alright, yay! Now, I can tell you right now, with a lot of accuracy and precision and wisdom, that the loss that Terran suffered in this game was not really a result of the fact that his opponent early expanded. It was a result of some of those later decisions, right? Because as we saw, the Banshees came in. The overwhelming benefit of the early expos from Protoss was backed off a little bit by those Banshees. It was backed off a little bit by the Banshees. Until it was about even. So then it's kind of like, okay, we're even now. What do we do next? That's the part where there's the problem. And this is a lot of the big mystique of the early expand style plays is, in a sense, early expanding a lot of times isn't the issue. It's that when my opponent early expands, it's going to be a long game, and if I'm a weaker player, I just don't like playing long games, right? Like that, and that's the issue, right? That's the problem. It has nothing to do with the expansion. It's just the fact that 15-minute mark, I'm used to having won by now. I got to go to lunch, right? And that's where the little pains come in. So we're going to look at the second game of 3 that we have selected. So let me go to multiplayer. I gotta clean this out. I've actually been cleaning my room in the last few days. Ooh, it's so fancy. This is... that's not it. That's the last one. It was on Xel'Naga Caverns. Where is it? Yeah, there it is. Cool. Now, you heard me say... right at the start of this entire daily. At the start of the entire daily, I'm going to say right now what I said then. There's really 2 good ways of dealing with an early expand, right? There's the try to crush it and just break it really hard, devote all your resources to smashing it early, because again, right when he plants down the Nexus, he's at a loss. Until he starts mining for a little while, that will be a loss for him. That will have put him behind. So you can smash it early. Or you can do some sort of expanding yourself, or teching yourself, or just take the leisure of time that your opponent has given you, right? That's the other end of the extreme. The thing that's in the middle, trying to kind of expand a little and attack a little, that's the terrible choice, right? That's the really bad choice. And we're going to see a little bit of that come into play here. This is the hero Piggy against Confused Crib, which, you know... that name gets funnier the more I think about it, as though there's the sort of like with it crib. I don't know if he has some sort of either a confused clan that he 2v2s with, or it's a crib clan. And of course I giggle because there was a very famous clan in the original Starcraft called the Angry Fruit that had such great names as Irate Orange, Pissed Grape, Angry Watermelon. And I think there were like 16 or 17 players in there. It was like Enraged Kiwi. I would just delight in joining channels and just trying to read all of their names and just write them down and use them for jokes later. Which I actually did, because I was in like 8th grade at this time and I really wanted to be funny, and I thought having names of fruit with various emotions would make the ladies giggle. But that's fine. I ended up learning a lot of programming. So, we see with Confused Crib going for a gateway. We see an assimilator getting thrown down here. I would actually go so far as to say that this is not an optimal build order by Confused Crib, but that's actually okay. We don't actually care too much. We're looking for a general broad theme here. Because we can even see APM-wise, these players are pretty decent, right? This is, I would actually say, is the kind of reasonable range in which you can play competently. And, you know, pull off everything that you need to do. You know, around just 60, 70, 80. But we see Piggy. All right, cool. Looks like Piggy's gearing up to do some sort of 3 barracks action. Could be a lot of early pressure, right? Could be quite a bit of early pressure. Confused Crib is just going to go ahead and expand. Again, kind of a funky ordering. Would have some troubles against Marauder pushes early on. But again, we're not at the tip-top diamond level of play. It's not a big deal. He's going to be able to get away with it, I can tell you that right now. And the Farage is down. Nexus is up. By the way, for any of you who didn't know, well, there's going to be a +1 armor getting researched. This is a total aside. This doesn't have anything to do with the early expanding specifically. This is just cool info. If you have Guardian Shield up, reduces incoming range damage by 2. If you have an armor upgrade for a Zealot, since it has a base 1 of armor, with a +1 armor upgrade, that now gives it 2 base armor. Plus the 2 from the Guardian Shield means its damage gets reduced by 4. Marines do 6 damage. That means it takes 50 shots from a Marine to kill just the health of a Zealot. Getting +1 armor first is pretty damn good against Terran if he's going for some sort of Marine-ish heavy style. I like it quite a bit. I prefer it over attack. But yeah, so we're going to see a little build-up of sorts. This is great. So thus far, this has been a little bit of a bad expansion, right? It hasn't hit the point where it's become good. In about 2 minutes, this will be a great expansion. But for now, this $400 has put us behind as Protoss. So we're going to be seeing Terran. He's building up and building up and building up. He's gearing up to do a little expandering action. We see all the upgrades. Very nearly close to finished. So this is one way to deal with an early expanding Protoss. See, look at it. The food is higher for Piggy. Confused Crib is just now getting his warp gates up. But then a couple of concerning things begin happening, right? So here's the expand. This is an okay timed expansion. We always like to expand and attack at the same time, right? That's a generally good technique, but we really want to make absolutely positive that we do as much damage as possible. So again, these are +2 Zealots. +2 Zealots, plus the Guardian Shield. Throw down the Guardian Shield. Well, no Guardian Shield, no big deal. So, either way, we can clearly see that this is looking very, very effective, right? This is looking fantastic. It's looking so great. This is some more Zealots trying to get warped in, but the Guardian Shield, of course, makes these Zealots incredibly hard to kill. Look at how low that health goes down. It takes quite a while, and oh no, alas. It seems that our attack has failed, right? And by failed, I mean that our attack just is not happening anymore. It's not like we didn't do a lot of damage. We did. We killed off a good portion of units. But that's okay because you know what? We have our expansion up. We have, you know, our 3 barracks going. We have all these upgrades done. We're getting our second gas. Yeah, you know what? Piggy actually I think is looking pretty fine. Now, what did I say beforehand, right? I said that you can either deal with it with a sort of huge crush, early push, or you can deal with it with some sort of huge tech pattern. Great! Piggy went for the huge early push sort of type of damage. Did a good amount of damage, and now it's expanded. You don't have to win with the early push, right? You can just do a ton of damage, and this is looking pretty even, right? This is looking pretty good. There's 5 gateways out right now. There's the plus armor. With the additional money that Piggy had during the battle, I would have liked to see more barracks go down, or an engineering bay, or a factory, but that's fine. He got his expo up. But then, here comes the real tragedy, right? Coming up very soon. Is this push right here. This is so typical of people when they're up against someone who did some sort of early expand, where they... I want you to note that first attack was pretty reasonably timed. A 3 racks, all upgrades push, pretty reasonable. Super committed. No money going anywhere else. No upgrades, no expands, no tech, just barracks. Barracks unit bonuses from the tech lab, and just massing right up to the front. Nifty, that's great. This second attack, this is one of those in the middle things. Well, I've kind of expanded, right? Like I've kind of expanded. I have some money mined. I kind of have some good barracks production. I have 3. I don't have 4 or 5 yet. I'm sort of attacking. Let me try an attack. this attack is actually smaller than the attack that came at the start. This happens all the time. Note that the game food-wise is still pretty even. Production-wise, Confused Crib has 5 gateways up, doesn't have any other tech structures, just now getting a Twilight Council. But now watch what happens. This is the huge classic mistake. This whole battle is going to encapsulate pretty much everything I've said about the early expand and resources and all that jazz thus far. There's a little bit of indecision here. That was, obviously a very big misclick, but I think very clearly everyone could see that there was no way Terran was going to win beforehand, especially with that last Warp of Zealots coming in. I'm going to hit the back button a couple times just so we can clearly visualize this in our heads. This is not taking out that any day of the week, especially not with this +1 armor and +1 attack en route. So, why was this attack not so good? Why is Protoss happy to see this attack happening? Okay, well, Protoss early expands, right? Okay, so here's my hands. Here's Terran. Terran is the left hand. Protoss is the right hand. So, right? So they both start out, and what does Terran do? Terran begins building a lot of those Marines, and Protoss expands, right? You saw my hand jut down like that, because I want to reinforce that idea that right when you expand, you're a little weak, right? So then what happens is Protoss is slowly starting to catch up, and the Terran's moving out with this huge push, and then right about when they're like here, right? When Terran's still a little bit ahead, the attack happens. It's a struggle, and it kind of ends up being even again, right? And then Terran expands, right? Dip down, and Protoss starts to really climb ahead because Protoss's expansion is now becoming a good expansion. It has made up for its investment, and now it's powering 5 gateways. You cannot power 5 gateways on one base, but you can on 2. So Protoss is really happy churning out 2 bases, like 2 real bases, not 2 existing bases, with one of them having just been started, right? So this is exactly why Terran's attack failed. Protoss is now getting to make all these units because this expansion has been up and running comfortably for a little bit of time. Terran just got his expansion up, so Terran is actually in a deficit until he ends up getting enough minerals back. So important to note. In other words, if you, unless you have some very, very, very clever, well thought out, super practiced timing for some smallish force in the middle-ish game against an early expander, it's a terrible idea to attack. Terrible idea to full-on frontal attack him. As we clearly see, Protoss came out light years ahead. This is where Terran generally kind of goes, well, crap, that didn't work. Now, honestly, I would say that this is a little bit of an underreaction from Piggy. If you're Piggy, you should throw down, some bunkers here, because if this force comes to attack you, you die, right? That's a lot of stuff. But Piggy is going to end up making more barracks. He's going to get some ghost academies. He's going to continue teching. Now, I want to note, pretend for a moment that massacre that just happened there, suppose that didn't happen at all. Suppose that Terran had just chilled back with all his forces, had just kind of chilled, hung back, and waited for, say, this Ghost Academy to finish. Some key piece of tech. Or waited for these barracks to finish, and really started making use of them. In other words, once this expansion started to kick in, then he could have made use of these barracks, right? He could have waited for that. Or he could have waited for this starport to come up. There are really these 4 things that he could have waited for, but didn't. So now he's going to have a smaller army in the later stages. That's going to be that's really the reason why Piggy lost, was that second attack. The first attack I'm kind of okay with. I think he could have maybe controlled the first attack properly and won, but that's fine. First attack by Piggy. I would give it this thing. I don't know what this is called. I'll give it a thumbs up because I know what this is called. I'll give it a thumbs up. But that second attack was really sort of And part of the reason why I chose this game, as we actually speed it up now, is this is actually a very, very tough thing to be able to see. It's very tough to be able to identify what is it that lost me the game. Because that little middle attack, a lot of people do that. and lose everything and say, well, it was kind of like my first attack. No, it was actually the exact opposite of your first attack. Your first attack was a pretty even trade. Your second attack was a total flat massacre. If you're a new player, use this resource station. Pretty easy way to determine if something went okay. If you were at both 80 food before and both 50 food afterward, probably was okay. If you were at both 80 food before and then afterward you're at 50 and he's still at 80, that was bad. So this is what happens, right? This is the big tragedy that happens. The game starts to play out. Terran, very much so clearly behind. Third base coming up. Terran kind of just kind of throwing down a lot of structures, trying to get a lot of various tech up, but not feeling as comfortable getting an expansion command center of himself. And what's going to happen is that Protoss is slowly going to get this overwhelming, huge force as he begins getting mass upgrades. Wow. Protoss is going to get some overwhelming, huge force, and then Terran is going to begin dumping thought into this phase of the game. Pausing. So important that I, as Terran, can pause now and do the slice of time analysis. Who is ahead? Honestly, if Protoss started getting some High Templar out, just if he built 2 High Templar and got the Storm, I would label Protoss as way ahead. Way ahead. Getting the third base done, having Speed Zealot, having the 2-1 upgrades, getting more upgrades, fantastic for Protoss. Terran, on the other hand, has a paltry Marine Marauder force, no drops, no presence, is just now getting his third. Slice of time analysis. Slice of time. Just took what's happening at this very moment. I didn't say Terran's losing because he lost an early attack. I'm not doing that. I'm looking and saying, is Terran losing? And if the answer is yes, then I go, well, why? And the answer to that question is the failed second attack. Just want to restate that one more time because that's important to note. Too often people will do the wrong order. They'll say that second attack failed, so I am behind now. No. Look at this slice of time and say, am I behind or not? Yes, I'm behind. Why? It's the early second attack. That second attack, that's the answer, right? That's the answer. That's not the question, right? It's not like, oh, why is this early attack causing me to lose? Because if I look 10 minutes later, I'm clearly losing. That's no. Don't do that. I will celebrate with water to prove my point. I did it. I proved it. So, because what happens is that then all this thought gets dumped into this moment in time. All sorts of thought. All the tragedies of Piggy, who was thinking to himself, okay, cool, I have my Marine Marauder Ghost Force. I saw Jinro do something like that on the GSL, and I can be like Jinro. Alright, cool, I gotta keep my money low. Let me build some barracks. Alright, well, I'm continuing to macro. Alright, I got 1-1-ups. Maybe I should get an armory soon so I can get 2-2-ups. Because ups are important. Also, it sounds like it's a shoe reference, and shoes are cool, so I like my ups. We have Archons getting produced. We have a lot of upgrades coming out. We have some Colossi coming out. Confused Crib doing the everything build. And this is what happens, right? You hear me say people misinterpret what went wrong all the time. Let me show you exactly how a misinterpretation can come out of this game. I can clearly tell you right now that the real big problem was that early attack against the early expanding player, that second attack. But what happens is Piggy is thinking in the game. He's thinking, alright, plant those Guardian Shields down. Plant them down. Throw the EMPs down. Alright, cool. Throw down the EMPs. Did I get him? Yes? No. Okay. Oh, man. And then some storms go off. Alright, now for the record, I didn't actually watch the end of this game. Piggy could have possibly won this game, which would be kind of hilarious. But then this sort of thing happens. And let's actually just suppose for a minute, because that would be really funny if my example did end up coming to fruition. Let's just say that in the next attack, Piggy comes up, miss micros against these Colossi, and Piggy loses everything. He goes into a forum and says, how do you control against Zealot with speed and Colossi? Piggy might be doing everything right control-wise, might be doing everything right with what to build-wise, but just didn't have a good position after losing all those units at the start of the game. Now, if I do my slice of time analysis, it's really important to say, hey, at this point in the game, things are actually pretty even. So at this point, my decision-making becomes pretty relevant, right? I'm actually quite ahead in this game. Let's do the same analysis again. Why? Because there was a huge ass attack where I pretty much killed almost everything that Protoss had. Now we see Piggy doing some micro, ending up losing a lot of guys to Zealots. Don't forget that Zealots do damage. I think it has like the highest DPS of... has one of the highest DPSs in the game. Protoss kind of falling behind, but he's making my absolute favorite unit in the game, the Zealot. The Zealot is my favorite unit. I love them. But you know what? I think I've said what I need to say. Well, actually, I will say one more point. I thought that this was going to be a pretty one-sided loss for Piggy, but at this point, I can just tell you right now, it looks a lot like he's going to win if he ends up controlling it properly. But this game is actually so educational for anyone who is at around a gold level. This game has been swingy, right? Super swingy. First, Protoss early expands and is looking good, and then Terran pushes and evens it out again, and then Protoss crushes his first force, and then Protoss engages Terran at a weird point and crushes that force, and then they get into a new battle, and then all of a sudden Terran loses all his stuff to Colossi because he missed micro, and it's just kind of... You don't want that. Real games with pros kind of have this tension, and then thump. They just sort of flaccidly lean to one side for the good game, right? That's exactly how you kind of want it to. You don't ever want to give up your little bit of control. So I'm actually semi-curious what ends up happening, and... nah, we're low on time. It's actually not important. So important that you guys not care about the end of these games, because everyone will always wants to go, who won? What was the outcome? Remember, we don't care about the outcome, right? We don't want to do that sort of, oh, well, he won in the end, so I guess everything he did before then was right. No. We're actually going to look at, yes, just the start of this game. Just briefly, this is the last little bit of knowledge we want to explore. This is Leviathan, the enemy, against Hype, the superhero, Day 9 Daily Viewer. Hooray for Hype! Now, in this game, the reason we're focusing on this one is that almost everything I've talked about has been kind of the longer-term notion of how to deal with an early expand. The idea of, if he early expands and I mess with him in a way that might feel kind of hard, still might be even. Right? Or if I do an early push and it doesn't fail, or it kind of trades, we're still pretty even as long as I got my expansion up. We learn not to do these sort of mistakeful early attacks at the start. But every now and again, it's not the decision of the attack that was wrong. It's the execution of the attack that was wrong. That's exactly what we're going to see right here. In this game, Hype, I think, could have just straight up won the game. Straight up won the game. A lot of times, I feel like people who are trying to kill an early expanding player are going about it wrong. I feel like they should be thinking long-term. They should be thinking about expanding. They should be thinking about teching. They should be thinking about really just kind of matching their opponent and doing little jabs at him. People should be doing a lot less of, holy crap, I can maybe all in and win right now. However, Hype does do the, oh my god, I think I can win all in right now, but it ends up being a little bit of an execution issue. So I want you to think about your decision-making first, and then your execution a little later. So what are we seeing Leviathan do? Gate, gas, core. Same framework you heard me say in Game 1. I don't care about the foods, I don't care when the probes are going down. That's the framework that I like. Killing off an SCV. Yep, having a little bit of epilepsy at the ramp. Gonna be throwing down another pylon. Uh-oh, Hype's making a lot of dem mariners. Very cool, very cool. We have a tech lab going down. We have another barracks going down. Oh, it's another 3 racks. There's the Nexus going down just after 2 units. That's great. One of my favorite ways to early expand. Just a Zealot and a Stalker and then a Nexus. Cool, but we're seeing Hype really start to do some scary things. Now, I want to state for the record that Leviathan, oh no, does not have a gateway up right now. Just the one. Now he's finally starting to build more. Now, honestly, if for some reason Hype had gotten the concussive shell and had rallied everything properly, I genuinely think he could have won right now. Like, for instance, he's gonna... What's he gonna do here? It looks like he's just gonna chill directly within sight range of the opponent. But then here comes the push. Yeah, now if that concussive shell had come down... Now just watch the execution of this. Oh, man. Wow. Looks like a little misclick. Could have picked off that Zealot. Has even more units sort of chilling back here. Stim's going up. There's a bunker getting glitched. This is the sort of thing that you have to be very sensitive to. There's the Zealot getting picked off. Now, just some little micro notions. If you're ever retreating in micro, retreat back to the direction your reinforcements will come in. If you retreat back into this bottom corner, you're basically saying my units are going to die. You want to be retreating up here and here, so that way when your guys join in for the fray, you can end up pushing back. Yeah, losing that guy, not having this rally here. I mean, honestly, imagine this size army. 7 Marines, 2 Marauders with concussive shell against just 3 little Stalkers and a bunker's done. I mean, clearly a pretty significant timing window. Things being queued up, supply depots being forgotten, alas, alas, alas. And now, a couple of steps later, now moving in there with no concussive shell, cannot micro properly. And then, this is the point, this is actually something different, right? If we do our little slice of time analysis, we say, well, crap. He has an expansion, he has 3 gateways up. I only have 3 barracks, I don't really have any of the upgrades. I'm getting Ghost Academy. Am I ahead or not? No, I'm behind. Why? Because the execution of this attack, everything was pointed towards trying to end the game with an early push. I could have ended the game with an early push, but I kind of botched the execution. That's all I really want to focus on in that game, is just that, hey, there are potential windows to crush early expand, such as that one. Why was Protoss so damn vulnerable at the start of the game? Because he planted 400 minerals down on the Nexus, and until he starts mining from it, that is a 400 mineral paperweight. It prevented the Protoss from getting more gateways, which prevented him from getting more units, which prevented him from having anything with which to kill that early Terran push. Wow. So, to recap. The following. Early expands are best dealt with in one of 2 extreme ways. On the right side, you can do some sort of super early pressure right off the bat, really drill into him, such as in this game. But you got to be careful with your execution because you don't have that many units. You have to have some pretty pristine timing. Alternatively, you can expand yourself, maybe even double expand in response to his expansion. Or you can do some sort of fun little tech harassment sort of thing, right? Like getting a Banshee with Cloak and poking and prodding. You get to tech more easily because, again, that expansion puts him behind on tech. Cool, right? Fantastic. Don't try to do this tweener build where you kind of tech and kind of attack and kind of expand. It'll get crushed by someone who's really devoting himself to an early expand build. Also, we talked about time slicing. Just stop at this point in time and say, am I winning or am I losing? And just look at that. Ignore the history. Ignore things like, well, he got his expansion up. His expansion has actually only been up for 2 seconds, and his hasn't been up for a long time at all. Well, it doesn't matter if his expansion's been up all game because he's 45 food behind his opponent, right? That's all that matters, right? That's a big deficit. There's one more thing that I wanted to say before we end up taking dem questions. Oh, yeah. You hear me talk about the 2 extremes, right? You hear me talk about the early busting in, right? The early crazy pressure. Or the sort of fun, techie, expandy, just the leisure with the time. It would be naive of me to say that there's nothing good in between. But those things in between are what we call timing pushes. Right? Those are the really, really well-known timing pushes. Like, yeah, if you get 38 probes and 6 gateways, and you wait for exactly this amount of Stalkers, Sentries, and Zealots, and then attack, it just kind of seems to work. Wow! Right? Those are hard to find. Those are the things that you discover after bouncing back and forth between these two, just sort of adjusting and shaping, and then all of a sudden, your brain pops you somewhere in here. You say, I'm kind of sensing something like that's there. But I swear, if you are in gold or platinum, do not try to go, well, I saw a timing push, I will do it. You will win way more doing huge, committed, directed pushes to kill him off ASAP, or doing long-term expo-oriented, not a lot of attacking, just one big force with the key units, you will win so much more. Just try to avoid these little cutesy timing pushes in the middle because they're hard to deal with. So let's take like 2 questions, and then I'm going to go to bed because I have to get up at 2 a.m. There's GSL on. So do-do-do-do-do-do. All right, sweet. Day 9 says, Day 9, if you are going for a tech build and your opponent fast expands, how would you go about handling that? Would it be best to divert away from a tech build? No, there's nothing wrong with doing some sort of fancy tech. Really, tech builds generally have their own little abuses. I mean, like, for instance, if he's early expanding and you're Dark Templar rushing, you could do a fun little push with Dark Templar. Or if, he's early expanding and you're going Banshees, you have more room to sort of harass around him. You should use your tech in some way to gain an advantage, like, trying to think, like, there are circumstances where if your opponent expands, there's really good upgrade that you want that ordinarily you can't really have the time to grab, but now you can. One of the best examples is Storm. Psionic Storm is a really good spell. It takes a while to get. Colossi with range upgrade is a really good thing to get, but it's kind of hard to get. But if your opponent is like fast expanding, you can throw down, like Twilight Council and the Templar Archives kind of fast and get that Storm up, if that's so what you desire. So just make sure that, in a sense, this end of the extreme, the attack really fast, exploits his lack of return on the expansion right now. Be cute and tech and all that stuff. This abuses the fact that he can't really attack you for a while because he needs to wait for his expansion to kick in. It's kind of the same thing. They both abuse the same idea that right now he can't really do anything. He kind of has to defend. So either kill him right now or just accept the fact that he can't kill you right now. Those are the 2 ends of the extreme. So yeah, get something you wouldn't have gotten anyways. Like a very easiest example I think is when he expands and you go, oh, he's expanding. I'll double expand. Right? That's the most obvious one of that. Actually, we'll take 2 more after that one because that one was easy. This is such a great question. Knock Them says, Dear Day 9, in Zerg vs. Zergs on bigger maps, oftentimes one of the Zerg fast expands, but somehow I'm never able to make him pay for the fast expand. What attitude do you recommend to take facing this problem? Honestly, there's nothing wrong with doing something extremely similar to what he did. I was talking about the 2 ends of the extreme, but the one that I kind of ignored is just kind of do what he does, but do it better, if we're playing a Zerg vs. Zerg, and, he hatches on 14, and you went 14 pool, you can just kind of hatch on 15, make a few extra lings, back off, and then suddenly you're dead even in the game again, right? It almost doesn't matter that you early expanded, and there's no need to pay for it. In kind of the same notion, how if we're both one basing, no one says how do I punish his economy when we're both one basing. Well, I mean, there's super subtle ways to do it, but for the most part, you're kind of doing approximately the same thing, but you're trying to do all your little edges better. So yeah, there's nothing wrong with just sort of matching his expansion, even on non-mirror matchups, like a Protoss versus Terran. If your Protoss early expands as Terran, you can kind of go, all right, ta-da! Here's my expansion as well, and then just sort of match them evenly like that. So let's go ahead and take 1 more question. Oh, before I go to bed. Oh yeah, by the way, there's not going to be any bonus content today. There won't be a Wednesday night fight. There's not actually going to be anything after this one because I spent like 3 hours on tech support today and had a bunch of stupid errands I didn't think I was going to have to run today, but I did, so I'm sorry. But I'll be back tomorrow for a daily. So let's see here. So Keo Pews says, Dear Silver Hammer of Contemplation. Cool. I've been having a lot of trouble in PvP against one-base Colossi because I have a tendency to expand relatively early. I find that I usually can't figure out if he's going for something like this before I would prefer to get my expansion up. And I can't attack before he gets his Colossi up. Am I expanding too early? How should I deal with this? Okay, here's the last bit of advice. As I tilt the camera down and lean back, that feels good. So here's the thing. If you early expand, likewise, you can't... okay, you heard me say that against an early expander, you can't attack and expand and tech, kind of do one of these tweener, kind of one of these everything builds. If you begin with the early expand, it's very easy to fall back into the trap of exactly... Jesus, I'm wording that terribly. If you're against an early expander, a lot of times you kind of try to attack a little bit too much, and you're kind of expanding and teching at the same time, and the teching and the expanding kind of eat away from the attack, and it becomes a weak attack. When you're early expanding, the big trap people have when they early expand is they try to tech too quickly. So a lot of times what happens, especially in PvP, there'll be the Protoss player who throws down like 2-3 gateways, then expands, and then says, okay, I have 3 gateways, now I'm going to get my Robo and I'm going to go for a Colossus. And the one-basing player went 4-gate Robo Colossus right off the bat. And in a sense, his army is the exact same as yours, but bigger, right? And the whole reason the early expanding player crumbled is because he tried to do the same tech as his opponent, but it was slower. So in general, if I'm doing some sort of early expand against someone who's doing some sort of one basing, I stay low tech. I'm the sort of player who in PvP, if I sense my opponent is gearing up to one base, I'm going to go like 6 gateway Zealots and Stalkers with +1 attack and armor upgrades. Not even really that many sentries, right? Heavy minerals, heavy mineral expenditures. And then I'm going to try to creep around him. And then as a result, I naturally progress to the Twilight Council path instead of the Colossus path, because I have all these gateway units, right? Very common. This is becoming extremely popular in Korea. People just doing Blink and Zealot with leg speed because I think it's better than Colossus. Might be just because I like it more. But again, I like it. That's really the way to deal with it, is that if he's doing a teching, one basing, low econ, you do your low tech, high econ play, and then you try to get in good positioning. Done with a daily. For next Newbie Tuesday, I would love it if you would submit to me a game of you having a lot of trouble dealing with mid-game banelings. Mid-game banelings. The baneling is the unit that is most attached to cheesing as Zerg, yet still it provides kind of a potent threat. In the later stages of the game, the obvious one is my Marines got hit by banelings, but the other matchups kind of have issues with that as well. So I would love it if you'd send those to Tuesday at day9.tv. For next week's Fun Day Monday, it is Battlecruiser Rushing, right? You can only expand after you have started your first Battlecruiser. So in other words, you can only build a second command center after you have started your first Battlecruiser. Submit those to Monday at day9.tv. Without any further ado, I'm going to go to bed because I'm very, very tired. Good night, guys. Thanks for tuning in.